Taiwan is tiny, but somehow it has 3 global airlines: China Airlines, EVA Air, and Starlux. It all starts with China Airlines, Taiwan's oldest and most politically complex airline. Founded in 1959 and initially flown by military pilots, China Airlines wasn't just created to move people, but to project power, to show that it could connect to other capitals around the world despite its isolation. By the late 80s, China Airlines had scaled and was by far the largest airline in Taiwan. It was large, powerful, and government-owned. But it wasn't exactly known for service, safety, or innovation. That's when a shipping tycoon saw an opportunity. His name was Cheng Yongfa, founder of Evergreen Marine, one of the world's largest container shipping companies. He wanted an airline that not only competed with China Airlines, but with the best airlines in the world. And he had the resources to do it. In 1989, he started EVA Air, named after Evergreen Airways. From the beginning, EVA positioned itself as a premium airline, focused on customer service. It was the first airline in the world to launch premium economy, its cabins were cleaner, its food was better, and unlike China Airlines, it was entirely privately owned. Though China Airlines was treated more like a business over time, they were often tied up in politics, having to do things like changing its livery from this to this. While EVA Airlines was treated like a business from day one, it expanded aggressively across North America, including to cities that China Airlines didn't serve, like Houston. Across Southeast Asia, had a spotless safety record, unlike China Airlines, which had a rough patch in the 90s, and quietly became one of the most respected airlines in Asia, especially among frequent flyers. By the late 2010s, Taiwan had 2 established global airlines. But there were some issues. China Airlines had a massive pilot strike, while EVA Air had walkouts from its cabin crew. Flights were grounded, passenger trust was slipping, and this is when something unexpected happened. Cheng Kuwei wasn't just any airline executive, he was a former board member of EVA. His father had named him successor of EVA, but because Cheng was his youngest son and from his second wife, things got tricky. It didn't sit well with the rest of the family, so in a board meeting one day, he was ousted. Gone from the very airline he was meant to lead. But he didn't disappear. With his credibility, his dedication to the airline industry, his leadership, and his connections allowed him to raise capital for a new airline. One that wouldn't only compete with EVA or China Airlines, but one that would compete with the most luxurious airlines in the world, like Emirates or Singapore Airlines. Spacious cabins, fine dining in business class, and one of the most premium-heavy configurations on a narrow-body plane. It wasn't just an airline created to give travelers more choices in Taiwan, but to impress. And crucially, it also wasn't just created as a revolt against EVA. Starlux also had a larger strategic goal. They noticed that only about 1 in 6 passengers going through Taipei's main international airport are transit passengers. It hopes to make Taipei even more of a stopover city rather than just a destination. It's betting it can take a leading position by offering a premium product. Taiwan's 3-airline situation isn't just a product of market competition, it's a response to geopolitical isolation. Because Taiwan isn't a part of the International Civil Aviation Organization, pretty much every new international route or country that Taiwan gets access to has to be negotiated separately, making growth more complex when adding new destinations where both countries recognize the airline. And then there's the China factor. Beijing pressures global companies, including airlines, to treat Taiwan like it's part of China. That's why when you are booking a flight, say on KLM for example, it'll say Taipei, China instead of Taiwan. Because if they said Taiwan, then KLM could lose access to every destination they serve in mainland China, which also made it very complex for foreign airlines to serve Taiwan. In fact, many airlines created spin-off airlines based in Taiwan to serve Taipei, like Air France, KLM, British Airways, Qantas, and Swiss Air. But every airline besides KLM stopped serving Taiwan due to the complexity. But then 2008 came and something unexpected happened. Regular flights to China began. For decades, flights between Taiwan and China were politically impossible. The only way that flights occurred were through charter operations or through a stopover in places like Hong Kong. At the time, relations between Taiwan and China were warming up. Taiwan had just elected a new president who favored warming up relations with the mainland. Suddenly it was like the sky was open and there were no limits. China Airlines and EVA Air launched service into several cities like Beijing and Shanghai, while many Chinese airlines entered the market too, some of which even began co-sharing with the Taiwanese airlines like China Southern with China Airlines. But especially today, with all the tension, these agreements remain fragile. Notably, Starlux doesn't serve mainland China, though they do serve Macau and Hong Kong, special administrative regions, meaning that for them, it might just not be a risk worth taking, but for Taiwan, it could also be strategic since they also have another airline to fall back on. This political squeeze, especially since a lot of foreign airlines don't serve Taiwan, means that the local airlines have to do more of the work. Then there's alliances, which can get pretty complicated. Even though China Airlines is in SkyTeam and has a pretty good partnership with KLM, they partner on flights to Amsterdam, and EVA Air is in Star Alliance, and they fly to Munich, where China Airlines does not fly there. But still, these alliances allow the carriers to have an incentive to serve different destinations where they don't overlap. Internationally, all three of these airlines are also benefiting from less capacity between North America and China due to slot restrictions. But assuming that more capacity will come back in the future, this means that the Chinese airlines could be putting pressure on the Taiwanese airlines by offering lower fares, and that could especially be problematic since they fly into Taiwan. At the same time, Taiwan faces increasing pressure from rising fuel prices, labor negotiations, and much larger airlines in the region, which also does include new airlines like Etihad Airways and Delta entering the market. Taiwan's status is as uncertain as ever. Any changes to airspace agreements could come in the blink of an eye, and regional stability isn't guaranteed. Any changes that happen will send shockwaves across the industry. If you'd like to learn more about aviation and the world, then check this out.